the discovery. The edge of known space shimmered with possibilities that few dared to explore. Commander Lyra Chen stood on the observation deck of the Council survey vessel Pathfinder's Eye, watching the stars slide past as her ship moved through uncharted territory. Her scales, a deep emerald green that marked her as a Saurian from the outer colonies, caught the soft light from the navigation displays. She had spent 15 years mapping forgotten corners of the galaxy, and in all that time, nothing had prepared her for what her sensors were about to reveal. The system designated as Sol 3 had been logged in Council records nearly 2 centuries ago. The initial survey team had documented a primitive species called humans who had barely managed to launch chemical rockets beyond their atmosphere. The report classified them as technologically backward but showing potential. Standard protocol suggested checking back in 500 years to see if they had advanced enough to warrant inclusion in the Galactic Council's protection network. Lyra had chosen to investigate the system during a routine sweep of the sector. Resources were always needed, and uninhabited systems often contained valuable minerals. According to the old records, the humans would still be confined to their home planet, perhaps building crude space stations in low orbit if they had progressed faster than expected. Her sensor officer, a crystalline being named Coralth whose body refracted light in beautiful patterns, suddenly stiffened at his station. The musical chime that indicated unusual readings echoed through the bridge, and Lyra moved quickly to examine the data flowing across the screens. The energy signature her instruments detected made no sense. Something enormous orbited the third planet, something generating power levels that rivaled a Council battlecruiser. But that was impossible. Primitive species did not build structures capable of such output. Even basic fusion reactors were supposed to be centuries beyond human capability. Lyra ordered her ship to approach cautiously while activating all sensor arrays. As they drew closer, the picture became clearer and infinitely more disturbing. The object was not a natural formation or an asteroid that humans had somehow learned to use. It was a warship, and it dwarfed anything in Council databases. The vessel measured over 20 kilometers in length, its hull constructed from alloys that absorbed sensor beams and reflected almost nothing back. Weapon ports dotted its surface in configurations that suggested sophisticated targeting systems. Armor plating covered every section, thick enough to withstand impacts that would shatter smaller vessels. Most troubling of all, the ship's power signature indicated active systems running at levels that suggested full combat readiness. Lyra's mind raced through possibilities. Perhaps another spacefaring civilization had claimed this system after the original survey. Perhaps the humans had been contacted and uplifted by an unknown species. Perhaps Council records had been catastrophically wrong about human development timelines. None of these explanations felt adequate for what her sensors revealed. She drafted an urgent message to Council Central Command, marking it with priority codes that would ensure immediate attention. The message included all sensor data, detailed scans of the massive warship, and her recommendation that a proper diplomatic fleet be dispatched immediately. Something significant had happened in this forgotten system, and the implications could reshape Council understanding of galactic development patterns. 3 weeks later, Admiral Vex Thar arrived with 18 ships of the 5th Diplomatic Fleet. The Admiral was a Keltharian, a species known for their tactical brilliance and calm demeanor in crisis situations. His pale blue skin and 4 arms gave him an imposing presence that had brought countless primitive worlds into the Council's embrace. He had conducted first contact procedures with over 60 species during his long career, and each encounter had followed predictable patterns. The massive warship that Lyra had discovered still hung in orbit around the human home world, and Admiral Vex Thar studied it with growing concern. His flagship, Council's Mercy, was itself an impressive vessel designed to inspire awe in newly contacted species. But next to the human construction, it looked almost fragile. The Admiral called his senior staff together to review the situation. His intelligence officer, a telepathic mind-weaver named Sirith, presented analysis that raised more questions than answers. The human vessel showed no signs of conventional propulsion systems. Its power generation methods did not match any known fusion or antimatter technology. Most disturbing, scans could not penetrate its hull to reveal internal configurations. Admiral Vex Thar had seen many strange things during first contact missions, but nothing quite like this. Still, he maintained confidence in Council procedures that had worked for over 1,000 years. The fleet would approach, demonstrate their peaceful intentions through universal mathematical signals, and establish communication with planetary leadership. Once contact was made, they would assess human technological level and offer membership in the Galactic Council under appropriate terms. The 18 Council ships moved into formation, their hulls gleaming with advanced composite materials that had been refined over centuries. Their weapons remained powered down, but their defensive shields hummed with energy capable of deflecting meteor impacts. They broadcast friendship signals on all frequencies while approaching the massive human warship. On board the human vessel, Captain Sarah Chen watched the alien fleet approach with calm efficiency. She was a tall woman with short black hair and eyes that missed nothing. Her command chair sat at the center of a bridge that represented humanity's greatest technological achievements. Holographic displays surrounded her, showing real-time data from sensors that could track individual ships across star systems. Sarah had trained her entire adult life for this moment. Humanity had known about the Galactic Council for 63 years, ever since deep space monitoring stations first detected alien communications passing through human space. The governments of Earth had immediately classified this information and begun the most ambitious technological development program in human history. While the Council believed humans were still struggling with basic spaceflight, humanity had been studying alien technology, language, and culture through careful observation. They had built quantum computers to break Council encryption. They had developed sensors that could detect stealth vessels from impossible distances. Most importantly, they had created weapons and defenses based on principles the Council had not yet discovered. Sarah's tactical officer, Commander James Rodriguez, monitored the approaching fleet with professional detachment. His console displayed detailed analysis of each Council ship, information gathered through decades of covert surveillance. The alien vessels used fusion reactors for power, plasma cannons for weapons, and kinetic barriers for defense. Their technology was functional but outdated compared to human quantum-based systems. The communications officer, Lieutenant Maya Okonkwo, turned from her station with a slight smile. The aliens were broadcasting mathematical sequences and basic scientific constants, the universal first contact protocol that humanity had observed them using with other species. It was almost quaint in its simplicity. Sarah gave the order to respond using quantum communication technology that would instantly transmit her message across space. She spoke in perfect galactic standard, the common language used throughout Council space. Her words were carefully chosen to convey both peaceful intentions and unmistakable capability. On the Council flagship, communications officers stared at their equipment in shock. The human response had arrived on frequencies that required advanced quantum entanglement technology. The message was written in flawless galactic standard, a language that primitive species should not have known existed. Most troubling, the response came from the massive warship rather than from planetary authorities, suggesting military control of first contact procedures. Admiral Vex Thar read the message with growing unease. The humans welcomed the Council fleet to their territory. They expressed interest in peaceful dialogue. They requested that all negotiations be conducted in space rather than on the planetary surface, for everyone's safety. The phrasing of that last part sent chills through the Admiral's sensory organs. He ordered his fleet to maintain defensive positions while he drafted a response. The message explained that the Council came in peace to welcome humanity into galactic civilization. It requested permission to send diplomatic parties to meet with Earth's planetary leadership. It emphasized the benefits of Council membership and protection. The human response arrived within minutes, faster than any primitive species should have been able to formulate diplomatic communications. Captain Sarah Chen politely declined landing parties, stating that she held full authority to speak for humanity in all matters of first contact. She suggested that negotiations continue in space where both sides could maintain appropriate security measures. Admiral Vex Thar felt his confidence wavering. In his 60 years of conducting first contact, primitive species had always been eager to receive Council representatives. They welcomed the opportunity to learn about galactic civilization. They showed appropriate awe at Council technology and military power. These humans were different. They showed no fear, no excitement, no submission. They operated with the calm professionalism of a species that had been spacefaring for centuries. The Admiral decided to adjust his approach. Perhaps a demonstration of Council capabilities would help the humans understand their position. He ordered his fleet to perform a series of maneuvers designed to showcase their technological prowess. Ships moved in perfect synchronization, demonstrating computer coordination systems. Shields flared with energy, showing defensive capabilities. Weapon systems powered up, displaying firepower that could crack planetary crusts. Throughout the demonstration, the massive human warship remained motionless. Its systems showed no change in energy output. No defensive preparations were made. No weapons were charged. The vessel simply watched, as if the Council display was mildly interesting but not particularly impressive. This complete lack of reaction disturbed Admiral Vex far more than any aggressive response would have. Either the humans did not understand what they were seeing, or they were confident enough in their own capabilities to remain completely unconcerned by Council military power. Sarah Chin watched the alien demonstration with mild amusement. Her crew analyzed every aspect of the Council maneuvers, comparing observed capabilities against intelligence predictions. Everything matched expectations perfectly. The aliens were following the exact procedures humanity had observed them using with dozens of other species. Her science officer, Dr. Robert Kim, provided constant updates on Council technology. Their plasma weapons operated at energy levels that human shields could absorb indefinitely. Their kinetic barriers used electromagnetic principles that quantum disruption fields could neutralize instantly. Their sensor systems could not penetrate human stealth technology or detect human defensive installations hidden throughout the solar system. Sarah considered her options carefully. The Council expected to find primitives who would be intimidated by displays of force. Instead, they had encountered a species that had been preparing for this meeting for over 6 decades. It was time to gently educate them about the new reality they faced. She ordered her communications officer to transmit a simple message. The text thanked the Council for their demonstration and politely suggested that humanity could provide a demonstration of their own capabilities if the Council was interested in mutual understanding. Admiral Vex read the message 3 times, trying to understand its implications. Primitive species did not offer to demonstrate their capabilities. They did not suggest mutual understanding between equals. They certainly did not respond to Council military displays with such casual confidence. Something was very wrong with his assumptions about this situation. Against his better judgment, the Admiral agreed to observe a human demonstration. Perhaps seeing their actual capabilities would help him understand what he was dealing with. He ordered his fleet to pull back to a safe distance and activate all sensor systems to maximum sensitivity. What happened next would be reported in Council intelligence briefings for years to come. The massive human warship remained stationary, but suddenly one of the Council escort frigates simply ceased to exist. There was no explosion, no debris field, no energy discharge that any Council sensor could detect. The ship was there one moment and gone the next, as if reality itself had decided the vessel should no longer occupy that point in space. Panic rippled through the Council fleet. Defensive shields went to maximum power. Weapon systems charged frantically. Ships scattered in evasive patterns while trying to locate the source of the attack. But there was nothing to find. Whatever weapon the humans had used left no trace, no signature, no evidence of its operation. Admiral Vex felt true fear for the first time in his long military career. His tactical officers were shouting reports about impossible energy readings. His science teams were frantically trying to explain what they had witnessed. His communication staff was receiving emergency distress signals from other ships in the fleet, all demanding explanations that he could not provide. Then another transmission arrived from Captain Sarah Chin. Her tone remained calm and professional, almost apologetic. She explained that the demonstration had targeted an obsolete Council vessel in a carefully controlled manner. The ship's crew had been transported to safety aboard the human warship seconds before the weapon fired. No lives had been lost. The demonstration was simply meant to illustrate the technological gap between their civilizations. As if to prove her words, the human vessel transmitted the exact coordinates where Council crews could recover their people. Emergency shuttles were dispatched, and within hours the missing crew members were returned safely. They were frightened but unharmed, though their testimony about human medical technology and sensor capabilities only deepened the mystery. The rescued crews reported that human medical scanners had analyzed their biology with perfect accuracy despite never having encountered their species before. Human life support systems had instantly adapted to provide optimal environmental conditions for multiple alien physiologies. Most disturbing, the humans seemed to know everything about Council technology, biology, and culture, as if they had been studying the Council for years. Admiral Vex sat in his command chair, staring at reports that made no sense according to everything he understood about galactic civilization. A species that Council records classified as primitive had demonstrated weapons technology beyond comprehension. They possessed sensors that made Council stealth systems obsolete. They showed detailed knowledge of Council culture and capabilities while remaining completely mysterious themselves. The Admiral drafted an emergency report to Council High Command, marked with codes reserved for civilizational-level threats. His message was simple and devastating. Humanity was not a primitive species ready for integration into Council structures. They were an advanced power that had been observing the Council for decades while developing technology that made Council military forces obsolete. First contact had not gone according to plan, and the implications would reshape the entire galactic political landscape. As his message raced toward Council space at faster-than-light speeds, Admiral Vex Thar opened communications with Captain Sarah Chen once more. It was time to begin real negotiations, not as representatives of an advanced civilization dealing with primitives, but as equals meeting for the first time. The age of Council dominance in this sector of space had ended, and a new era was beginning whether the Council was ready for it or not. The revelation. The Grand Council chamber on Nexus Prime had witnessed many crises throughout its 1,000-year history, but never had its halls filled with such desperate voices. Representatives from 47 member species crowded into the circular auditorium, their various forms of communication creating a cacophony that threatened to overwhelm the translation systems. High Chancellor Meridax, an ancient being from the founding species known as the Architects, raised all 6 of his arms in a call for order that took several minutes to achieve. The holographic display at the center of the chamber showed Admiral Vex Thar's complete report on repeat. Ship after ship of Council representatives watched in growing horror as the human weapon erased a Council frigate from existence without leaving any detectable trace. The rescued crew members appeared next, their testimonies describing human technology that seemed like magic compared to Council capabilities. Defense Coordinator Thane, a massive reptilian warrior from the Draxus Confederation, slammed his armored fist against the speaker's podium. His species had built their reputation on military prowess, and the human display challenged everything they believed about galactic power structures. The scales along his neck ridges flared in agitation as he addressed the assembly. The humans have made fools of us all. For 63 years they watched us, studied us, learned our secrets while we believed them to be primitive savages barely capable of reaching their own moon. This is an intelligence failure of catastrophic proportions. Science Director Elara, whose crystalline form refracted light into rainbow patterns, approached the display with her usual methodical precision. Her species, the Luminari, had advanced Council technology for centuries through careful research and development. What she saw in the human demonstrations defied everything her people understood about physics and engineering. The weapon they used operates outside conventional energy parameters. Our best analysis suggests quantum manipulation at scales we have only theorized about. The precision required to transport living beings from a targeted vessel seconds before its destruction indicates sensor resolution that exceeds our capabilities by orders of magnitude. Most troubling, their power generation systems show no heat signature, no waste radiation, nothing that our instruments can properly measure. Economic Minister Vorn, representing the trade consortium that controlled much of the Council's commercial activity, brought a different perspective to the discussion. His species communicated through complex pheromone patterns that translators rendered into precise economic terminology. He displayed star charts showing the Sol system's strategic position along 3 major trade routes that connected dozens of Council worlds. If the humans decide to expand their territory, they could control shipping lanes that represent 40% of our intersector commerce. We have no way to prevent such expansion given their demonstrated technological superiority. The economic implications are staggering. We could face trade disruptions that would destabilize entire sectors of Council space. High Chancellor Meridax listened to each speaker while reviewing classified reports from Council intelligence services. The information painted a picture far more disturbing than even Admiral Vex Thar realized. Human monitoring stations had been detected in 17 different star systems, all carefully hidden and all apparently operational for decades. The humans had not simply observed Council activities near their home world. They had established an intelligence network that spanned a significant portion of Council space. The chamber fell silent as Meridax activated his personal communication crystal, projecting his thoughts directly into the minds of every being present. It was a privilege reserved for the most serious announcements, and everyone recognized the gravity of the moment. We face a turning point in Council history. For the first time since our founding, we have encountered a species that possesses capabilities exceeding our own. Every protocol we have developed for first contact assumes technological superiority on our part. Those protocols are now worthless. We must adapt to a new reality or risk conflict with a power that could devastate our civilization. In the Sol system, Captain Sarah Chen conducted her own strategic assessment aboard the Titan's Resolve, the name humanity had given to their first Titan-Class warship. Her ready room displayed real-time intelligence from across human space. Monitoring stations reported increased Council military communications. Fleet movements suggested possible mobilization of additional forces. The Council was clearly debating how to respond to a situation that challenged their fundamental assumptions about galactic order. Sarah's executive officer, Commander Marcus Liu, entered with updated intelligence reports. He was a veteran of humanity's secret space program, having spent 20 years helping to build the defensive network that now protected Earth and its colonies. His expression was carefully neutral, but Sarah could read the concern in his eyes. Captain, our deep space sensors are tracking significant military movements throughout Council space. Their second battle fleet is departing from the Andromeda sector. The fourth strategic reserve is mobilizing from defensive positions along the Perseus arm. If they commit both forces to this region, we could be facing 60 or more Council warships within 2 weeks. Sarah considered this information while reviewing psychological profiles of Council leadership that human intelligence had assembled over decades of observation. Fear was driving their decisions, and fear could lead to desperation. Desperate civilizations made poor choices that often resulted in unnecessary conflict. She needed to provide the Council with a clearer picture of what they faced, not to intimidate them further but to help them understand that military solutions would only lead to mutual destruction. It was time to reveal more of humanity's preparations and explain why peaceful coexistence was the only rational path forward. Sarah ordered her communications officer to establish a direct channel with Admiral Vexthar. The alien commander appeared on her screen looking far less confident than during their first contact. His blue skin had taken on a paler shade that human intelligence files indicated represented stress in Keltharian physiology. Admiral, I understand the Council is considering military responses to our demonstration. Before your leadership makes decisions based on incomplete information, I believe we should have a more comprehensive discussion about the strategic situation. Admiral Vexthar appreciated the human captain's directness even as he dreaded what she might reveal next. Captain Shin, my superiors are indeed debating various responses. Your demonstration was quite effective in showing us that our assumptions about human capabilities were incorrect. However, some members of the Council believe that overwhelming force might still prove decisive. They suggest committing multiple battle fleets to this region. Sarah nodded as if she had expected exactly this response. Admiral, I would like to share some additional information that might influence those discussions. With your permission, I will transmit sensor data showing the full extent of human defensive preparations in this system. The data package arrived instantly through quantum communication channels. Admiral Vexthar's tactical officers immediately began analyzing the information, and their reactions told him everything he needed to know. The color drained from their faces, their various biological indicators of shock activating simultaneously. The sensor data revealed what the Council had failed to detect during decades of observations. The Sol system was not simply defended by one massive warship. It contained over 400 separate defensive installations, each one armed with weapons comparable to those demonstrated earlier. Orbital platforms surrounded Earth, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn. Hidden bases occupied asteroids throughout the belt. Mobile defense stations patrolled the outer system on paths that made detection nearly impossible. Most devastating of all, the data showed that similar defensive networks existed in 3 other star systems that humanity had quietly colonized over the past 40 years. The Council had believed humans were confined to their home world. Instead, they had established a small but heavily defended interstellar civilization without anyone noticing. Admiral Vexthar felt his secondary heart begin to race as he processed the implications. Captain Chin, this represents a military buildup of unprecedented scale. How did you accomplish all of this without detection? Sarah's expression remained professional but showed a hint of pride. Admiral, humanity has always excelled at 2 things. First, we are very good at learning from observation. We studied your sensor technologies for decades and designed our installations to exploit their limitations. Second, we are excellent at long-term planning. Once we detected Council communications and realized we were not alone in the universe, every major Earth government agreed to devote substantial resources to defensive preparations. We have been working toward this moment for over 60 years. The honesty of her answer struck Admiral Vexthar as remarkable. Most species would have hidden their capabilities or made vague claims. Captain Chin was simply stating facts, confident that the truth itself was sufficient to make her point. On Nexus Prime, High Chancellor Meridax received Admiral Vexthar's updated report through priority channels. He read it twice before calling an emergency session of the Grand Council Security Committee. This smaller group consisted of only the most senior military and intelligence leaders, beings who could be trusted to make rational decisions even under extreme pressure. Defense Coordinator Thane reviewed the new intelligence with his tactical analysis team. Their conclusions were unanimous and devastating. Even if the Council committed every available warship to an assault on human space, the offensive would fail catastrophically. Human defensive installations outnumbered Council attacking forces by significant margins. Human weapons technology provided advantages that made conventional warfare impossible. Most importantly, human intelligence capabilities meant they would detect any Council military buildup long before it reached striking distance. Science Director Ilara added her own analysis that deepened the crisis. The humans have not simply built more advanced weapons. They have developed an entire technological paradigm that we do not understand. Their quantum manipulation capabilities suggest theoretical breakthroughs in physics that our best scientists have not achieved. Catching up to their level could take us a century, assuming we could even replicate their research without access to their foundational knowledge. Intelligence Director Crane, a shadowy figure whose species remained hidden even from other Council members, presented the most disturbing findings. His operatives had been attempting to gather information about human society and government structures. What they discovered challenged Council understanding of how civilizations should develop. The humans do not have a unified planetary government. They maintain dozens of separate nation-states with different political systems, cultures, and interests. Yet somehow they managed to coordinate a multi-generational defensive buildup without any apparent conflicts or resource disputes. This suggests social cohesion mechanisms we do not understand. More concerning, their various governments have granted complete authority over external relations to a single unified command structure. Captain Sarah Chin speaks for all of humanity with the backing of every major power on Earth. High Chancellor Meridax absorbed all of this information while considering options that seemed increasingly limited. Military action would fail. Economic pressure was impossible against a self-sufficient civilization. Diplomatic isolation would only encourage humanity to expand aggressively into surrounding systems. The Council's traditional tools for managing newly contacted species were all useless in this situation. There is only one rational path forward. We must negotiate with humanity as equals and establish a framework for peaceful coexistence. This will require fundamental changes to how the Council operates. We have never accepted a species as an equal partner rather than a subordinate member. We must create new categories of relationship and new diplomatic structures. Back aboard the Titan's Resolve, Sarah Chin received confirmation that Council leadership was requesting formal diplomatic negotiations. The message came directly from High Chancellor Meridax himself, acknowledging humanity as an independent civilization and proposing discussions to establish mutual recognition and peaceful relations. Sarah felt a wave of relief mixed with satisfaction. Humanity's long preparation had achieved its primary objective without firing shots that could have started a devastating war. Now came the equally challenging task of building a stable relationship with a galactic civilization that had never encountered a true peer before. She assembled her senior staff to plan the negotiation strategy. Commander Liu would handle military security arrangements. Dr. Kim would provide scientific and technological expertise. Intelligence Director Jennifer Walsh would monitor Council political dynamics. Most importantly, Ambassador David Chin, Sarah's uncle and a career diplomat who had spent 30 years preparing for this role, would lead the actual negotiations. The diplomatic talks began 3 days later on a neutral space station that humanity constructed specifically for the occasion. The station itself served as another demonstration of human capabilities. Built in 72 hours using advanced fabrication technology, it provided comfortable environments for both human and alien physiologies. The construction speed alone impressed Council observers who would have needed months to build something comparable. Ambassador Chin greeted High Chancellor Meridax and his delegation with careful formality. The human diplomat was an elderly man with silver hair and eyes that had witnessed decades of Earth's transformation. He spoke perfect galactic standard with multiple dialect variations that showed his deep study of Council culture. High Chancellor, humanity welcomes the opportunity to establish formal relations with the Galactic Council. We have watched your civilization with great interest for many years and have profound respect for what you have achieved across so many worlds and species. Meridax appreciated the diplomat's courtesy even as he recognized the subtle message. The humans had been watching for years, studying and learning while remaining hidden. They held advantages in intelligence and preparation that would influence every aspect of these negotiations. Ambassador Chin, we must acknowledge that this situation is unprecedented for the Council. We have never encountered a species that developed advanced capabilities independently while deliberately avoiding contact. We need to understand humanity's intentions and expectations. The human ambassador nodded thoughtfully. Our intentions are straightforward, Chancellor. Humanity seeks to exist as an independent civilization with full sovereignty over our territories. We are interested in trade, cultural exchange, and mutual defense arrangements where appropriate. However, we will not accept subordinate status or allow external powers to dictate our internal affairs. We propose that the Council recognize humanity as an equal partner rather than attempting to integrate us into existing hierarchies. This was the moment Meridax had been dreading. Equal partnership meant rewriting fundamental aspects of Council structure. It meant accepting that humanity could veto decisions affecting their interests. It meant sharing power with a species that had no history within Council institutions. But the alternative was worse. Rejecting humanity's proposal risked pushing them toward aggressive expansion. It might trigger an arms race that the Council could not win. Worst of all, it would create a powerful civilization with hostile intentions right in the middle of Council space. Your proposal has merit, Ambassador, but it raises many questions about implementation. The Council has established procedures and governance structures developed over 1,000 years. Incorporating an equal partner rather than a subordinate member will require significant adaptations. Over the following weeks, negotiators from both sides worked through countless details. Humanity would be recognized as a sovereign civilization with exclusive rights to 37 star systems including Sol and their existing colonies. Council members would have access to these systems for trade and transit but would recognize human jurisdiction. In exchange, humanity would share some technological knowledge, though not the most sensitive quantum manipulation research that provided their military advantages. The agreement created a new category of Council relationship called associate partnership. Humanity would have voice and limited voting rights in Council affairs that affected their interests. They would contribute to mutual defense arrangements in their region of space. Most importantly, they would be recognized as equals who could not be coerced or manipulated through traditional Council power structures. When the treaty was finally presented to the full Grand Council, the debate raged for 3 days. Many representatives objected to setting precedents that could encourage other species to demand similar treatment. Some argued that accepting human equality undermined Council authority. Others worried about long-term implications for galactic governance. But High Chancellor Meridax and his supporters had the decisive argument. Humanity already possessed the power to demand respect. The treaty simply formalized reality rather than creating new facts. Rejecting the agreement would not make humanity weaker or more compliant. It would only make them hostile and uncooperative. The treaty passed by a narrow margin and was formally signed aboard the Titan's Resolve in a ceremony broadcast across Council space. Captain Sarah Chin stood beside Ambassador David Chin as High Chancellor Meridax affixed his seal to the document that changed galactic history. For the first time in 1,000 years, the Galactic Council had encountered a civilization that forced them to adapt rather than simply absorbing another subordinate species. Humanity had demonstrated that technological superiority could emerge from unexpected corners of space. More importantly, they had shown that careful preparation and strategic patience could achieve objectives that military force alone could never accomplish. As the ceremony concluded and the various delegations prepared to depart, Sarah Chin took a moment to look out at Earth hanging in space beyond the station's observation windows. Her planet and her species had just taken their place on the galactic stage, not as supplicants seeking protection but as equals demanding respect. The journey had taken over 60 years of careful preparation. Countless scientists, engineers, diplomats, and military personnel had dedicated their lives to ensuring humanity would be ready for first contact. They had built weapons and defenses, studied alien cultures, and maintained absolute secrecy while an entire civilization prepared for a moment that many thought might never come. Now that moment had passed, and a new chapter in human history was beginning. The galaxy would never again see humanity as primitive or weak. The Council would never again approach a newly discovered species assuming automatic superiority. And somewhere in the depths of space, other civilizations watching these events unfold would learn the same lesson that the Council had learned so dramatically. Never underestimate a species that has time to prepare, the determination to excel, and the wisdom to know that true strength comes not from domination but from earning respect through capability and restraint. Humanity had demonstrated all of these qualities, and in doing so, had secured not just their survival but their rightful place among the stars as equals to any civilization in the galaxy. The Council had encountered a Titan-Class warship and gone silent in shock and fear. But from that silence had emerged understanding, respect, and the foundation for a new era of galactic relations. The age of council supremacy had ended, and an age of true cooperation between equals was beginning. The future remained uncertain, but for the first time in 1,000 years, the galaxy faced that uncertainty with hope rather than the comfortable assumptions of unchallenged power.